I'm Mary. I'm a yoga instructor at Namaste Yoga Studio, and this morning I'd like to offer you a practice that involves some balancing poses. Sometimes balance can be tricky, and I think for lots of us, balance at the moment off the mat is even trickier. So we'll do some poses, we'll move through. Remember, you're practicing at home. If there's a place that you feel like you need to spend a little more time, feel free to do that. And of course, if you're in a studio, maybe you'd be self-conscious about falling when you do some balance poses, but we're in our home studios now. So just enjoy exploring this practice of yoga this morning, working on balance. We'll start off in just a nice, easy sitting pose. Go ahead and sit up on your blanket. Maybe you found some props around your house to help you find space. That's really all we use the props for, is to help us find a little more grounding. So if you can bring your hips so they're just a little higher than your knees, maybe drop your knees closer to the floor. That might actually come by sitting up a little bit higher, maybe folding your blankets over, or maybe even grabbing a block to sit up on. So we'll take a full breath in and relax. Turn our palms to face upward. And begin to just notice the rhythm of our breath. A full breath in and a full breath out. Let your face begin to soften. Gently slide your elbows back so they rest under your shoulders. And from your hip bones up into your armpits, feel yourself get long. Feel some space between your shoulders and your ears are resting over your shoulders. And you just come to a nice rhythm. A full breath in and a full breath out. If it feels comfortable to you at this point and you want to close your eyes, go ahead and close your eyes. Breathing in, breathing out. Take your awareness to the space above your eyebrows and see if you can just soften that space a little bit. Let go of that hugging in with the eyebrows. See if you can make them nice and broad across the top of the forehead. And then take your attention a little bit lower to the space behind the eyelids. See if you can soften that space. And wiggle your tongue around gently in your mouth, loosening the upper and lower jaw. And then floating your shoulders back, lifting up into your armpits. Feel the space along the torso. Support the low back by hugging the belly in towards the spine. And just breathe in and breathe out. As you settle into the still rhythm of your breath, perhaps you notice that your mind is busy. And if that's the case, recognize that what you have right now is this moment and this breath. So allow yourself just to breathe into it and breathe out. Stay with the rhythm of your breath. And then whenever you're ready, go ahead and drop your chin to your chest And breathe into the space in the back of the neck. And then on the in-breath, inhale and lift your chin. Gently guide your nose up towards the ceiling. Inhale, come back to center. Drop your right ear over to your right shoulder. And inhale and come back to center. Exhale the left ear over to the left shoulder. You'll breathe and notice some space along the right side of your neck. Inhale, come back to center. Take a full breath in and feel your head resting balanced at the top of the spine. Now we'll begin to make some gentle circles with the head. So we'll drop the chin to the chest. Roll the right ear over to the right shoulder. Inhale, point the nose up towards the ceiling. Exhale, take the left ear to the left shoulder. And come all the way around with the chin towards the chest. We'll do that 2 more times. Just feeling the breath guide you through. So we're not in a hurry, we're not in a rush. We're observing and noticing. Maybe if you're anything like me, you're noticing there are some popping sounds going on. We'll inhale and lift the chin, take a breath in, and we'll drop the chin and reverse the order of our circles. All right, for me in this direction is just downright snap, crackle, and pop. And if you're noticing that, maybe you didn't even realize that you're holding on to some things in the space of the neck. So we're just trying to balance it out. One side is often different in a yoga practice than the other. We'll inhale and lift the chin. And again, enjoy the space of the head resting on the spine. And from your tailbone through the top of the head, take a full breath in. And a full exhale, letting go. And we'll place our hands to heart center. We'll set an intention for our practice. My intention is to offer a class that offers balance, or at least practices balance. And whatever your intention is, we'll bow our heads to our hearts. And then slowly begin to open the eyes and lift the chin, float the hands out wide. And then reaching the arms up and overhead, soften your shoulders away from your ears. Reach from the hips up through the fingertips without cramming into the shoulders. And we'll do this as we exhale and turn the palms down 3 times. So you want to think about almost like you're dragging your hands through molasses. Nice and slow, not in a hurry here this morning. After that 3rd, reach up, reach, and then soften the shoulders, strengthen your core. Decide which hand is your right hand, drop it to the floor. Spider walk your right fingertips out to the side, and then push into your fingers from your left hip up through your left fingertips. Feel yourself get long, and push down into the left hip as you reach over to your right. And inhale and come back to center. And reach the arm up and overhead. Spider walk your left fingertips out to the side. Reach over to your left. Inhale, come back. Switch sides. And again, we'll go through 3 rounds. So this is the end of the 2nd round. Back to center. 3rd round. Just breathing and noticing, stretching through the left side, reaching now on the opposite side. Good. And then come back to center. We're going to come to hands and knees. Sometimes it's nice if your knees are tender to use a blanket underneath your knees, but if you don't need it, you can put your blanket out of the way. I also like to be ready with my props. So if you have your props, I've got my blocks, but if you don't have blocks, remember you can use things you find around the house. A book, maybe a box, cans, all sorts of options. So here we are. We're in tabletop pose. We've got the knees right underneath the hips. Whoops, I'm going to slide my books out of the way. Those are for later. So in tabletop, it's just exactly what it sounds like. You've got your wrist creases right underneath your shoulders. You've got your knees right underneath your hips. And remember, everybody's body is a different shape, but you want to think of the spine as being a nice neutral line. So from the tailbone all the way through the top of the head, we're going to just get long. And remember, we did those little neck stretches, so we don't want to drop the neck or the head. That stretches the back of the neck. And we don't want to do this, looking up forward, because then we wind up cutting off the breath. So if we just did nothing but breathe for the next however long, we'd feel better, but not if we were looking up and holding our breath. So nice and neutral. We'll bring our shoulders onto our backs. We'll hug our belly in towards our spine. And we'll find that neutral space where you feel like you're not over-efforting. Remember, you want to push down into the ball mounts of your index fingers so that you're not pushing too much pressure in the back of the wrist. Now, if you feel like that's not comfortable, you may want to put a little something underneath your hands there, maybe a rolled up t-shirt or something like that. But for most people, if we can come down like this and we push in the ball mount, we get that lift. From here, from that neutral space, we'll take a full breath in and a full breath out. And you notice how you're balanced in the breath, you're balanced in the physical body. After 3 rounds of breath, start to exhale and reach your belly button up towards the ceiling. So you want to start at the lowest end of the spine, reaching your belly up towards the ceiling, rounding into your back, lifting up through the ribs, eventually feeling your head begin to sink. Reach, reach, reach. And then inhale. Drop your chest and reverse the order. So you want to start more at the top of the spine as you surrender the heart down towards the mat. Lift up into your hips, lift up into your shoulders. Exhale, make your way into a cat stretch. And inhale, come into your cow stretch. We'll go 3 more rounds of breath at your pace. And I love teaching cat-cow because I think it's a really helpful pose to help us really feel that connection of breath to movement. As you move through cat-cow, you also may notice that you're particularly enjoying a certain part. Like for me, when I come into this deep cow stretch, that's where I feel my shoulders really release. But for you, it might be you want to spend a little more time in a cat stretch. And if you decide to do that, remember, this is your practice, so we're just moving at a pace and a rhythm that feels right for you. We'll inhale and come back to that neutral space. Take another breath in. Slide your left toes to the back edge of the mat. Push into your left heel, and again, find the neutral in the spine, so the hips and the shoulders are square. As you push into the left heel, you can feel the heel hug in towards the left hip, engaging the muscles of the legs. Then you can float the left toes off the floor. Maybe, maybe not. If you decide you don't want to float your toes, you just keep your foot on the floor and you balance there. A couple of rounds of breath, so you practice balance. That's what we're working on this morning. And then release the left knee. Slide the right toes back. Push into your right heel. And you'll do the same thing on the right side. With the right leg, you want to feel the strength of the right leg and float the right heel behind your hip. And we're just breathing here. We're just noticing. We're finding the balance in the breath, even though the body is a little bit off balance. We'll exhale and release the knee. 3 rounds of cat, cow. And we'll come back to center. This time we're going to do the same thing, only we're just going to use the arms. So we'll reach the left arm forward. We'll plug the arm into the shoulder, and we'll find the neutral space in 3 full breaths. And then release the left hand, reach the right hand forward, plug it in, find the balance in the torso. From the shoulders to the hip bones, engage the strength of the core. And breathe in and breathe out. And exhale. This time, take your knees out wide. Bring your big toes together. It's time for a child's pose. So you'll send your hips heavy over your heels and, bring the forearms down, bring the head down. For most people, this is an awesome place to land. If you don't like the weight on your knees, you can always flip over onto your back and get that same kind of sensation and stretch by taking your knees out wide and bringing your big toes together. So if child pose comes back into our practice this morning, you've got options, right? As you rest in child's pose, just feel what you're feeling. Maybe some length in the back, maybe some weight in the hips. I'm not sure what you're feeling, but I hope you are. Now we're going to come back up into tabletop, and we're going to take it to the next movement. So remember, you've got options. If you don't feel like doing something I'm doing, go back to the thing that we did before. So this time we'll take the left toes to the back edge of the mat. We'll hug the left heel in, float the left heel behind the hip, and reach the right arm forward, coming into dog hunter pose. Full breath in, full breath out. Seeing if you can just find some stillness in the breath and the body. And release the right hand, release the left knee. Take another breath, and we'll do the same thing on the opposite side. So we'll take the left hand forward, we'll slide the right toes back, lift the right toes off the floor, and hug in. So if it feels better to keep the toes on the floor, remember I gave you that option. Breathe in and breathe out. And exhale, release the left hand, release the left knee. Take your knees wide again. Come into the variation of child's pose. That works for you. Forearms down to the floor, head to the floor. Breathing in and breathing out. Let's rise back up into table. Bring the knees together. Curl the toes under, although, again, it is your practice. So if the feet flat on the floor feels better to you, then leave your feet flat on the floor. I like to curl my toes under because it engages the muscles in the calves, but that's an option. All right, so now we're going to do the next thing. So I've given you the first round, the second round, this is the third one. And like the other two, it's optional. This time we'll slide the left toes to the back of the mat, we'll lift the left leg, and then we'll bend the left knee and find a little stretch in the top of the quad. And then maybe you want to reach the right hand forward and around and reach for your foot. Now, if your foot's not accessible, you can just reach back if you'd rather keep a hand on the floor because that's challenging. Or maybe you want to grab the ankle and push your ankle into your hand. Square up the hips and the shoulders. Take 3 rounds of breath. And then release the hand, release the knee. We'll do the same thing on the opposite side. So you'll slide the right toes back, engage the muscles of the leg, float the right leg up, bend the right knee, reach the left hand behind you, or not, and grab a hold of that ankle. Bringing the shoulders and the hips square. Release the left foot, the left hand, release the right knee. Take a breath here. Exhale into a cat stretch. Inhale through to cow. Back to neutral, into child's. Knees come wide, big toes come together. Surrender down into your child's pose. Take a breath here and just remind yourself, what was your intention this morning? What brought you to the mat? Are you finding a little bit of space, a little bit of balance? Maybe in the breath, maybe in the thoughts. It is always your practice, and that's the beauty of this practice. So now go ahead and walk your hands back, and we are going to come into a standing pose. So when you come to stand, you want to look down at your feet and make sure your feet are about hip distance apart. And that's typically for most people about 2 fists. So you'll bend your knees and just bring your fists between your feet. And there you've got the alignment. You want from the middle of the ankle to the second toe, you want 2 parallel lines. So that's the foundation. The feet are on the floor. Take a breath here and just notice the distribution of the weight in the feet. So if you rock a little bit forward, you'll feel yourself almost falling forward, right? And then if you push back into your heels, you feel like you could fall back. And then if you start to think of your feet in space as far as being 4 corners, push into the ball mount of your big toe, right on the floor, push into the inner heel, and then spread your toes, push your baby toe to the floor, and then push your outer heel. And there's the 4 corners. So we want all 4 corners of the feet on the floor. But for me, as soon as I do that, I tend to lock into my knees, and I'm never going to instruct you to lock. So from here, we'll just put a little bit of softness. Like, here's the bend, here's the lock. Go ahead and find that place in between. You can take your hand and rest it on your belly. You can take your other hand and take it to your tailbone. And we want the tailbone to reach towards the floor so that we get that space in the low back. And then relax your hands down next to your hips so that you feel like from that firm foundation of the feet up through the top of the head, you're as long and lean as you could possibly be. It's a full breath in and a full breath out. The name of this pose is Tadasana, or mountain pose. And some people think it's just standing, but you may have noticed that it took us a little bit of time to get into that shape because we are practicing with intention this morning. Intention of finding balance in the body. We'll float the arms up and overhead. Push down into the feet, and from the feet up through the fingertips, feel ourselves get long. And exhale, release the hands, bring them all the way into the center of your heart. Inhale, float the arms up and overhead. And exhale, release your hands back to heart center. One more time, we'll take the breath, reach the arms up and overhead, softening the shoulders, getting really long through the torso. Now, we do a lot of left and rights, and just recognize that if you do it on one side, you just do it on the other. So we'll turn the right palm up, reach the left hand over for the right wrist, push down into the right foot, and we'll lean the opposite way. We'll lean over to the left and breathe through the right side of the body, from the right foot, through the right hip, through the right armpit, through the right arm. Breathe in and breathe out. And then inhale and come back to center. And let's do the other side. So we'll get long through the left side, lean over to the right, and we'll fill that space through the ribs. And we'll inhale and come back to center. How about we do that again? We turn the right palm up. We reach through the left finger, or through the right fingertips as we lean to the left. Keep the right shoulder anchored. Good. Take a breath. Inhale, come back. Do the same thing on the other side. Just feeling the breath, noticing how good it feels. So find that space. And then we'll inhale and come back to center. Now, exhale, take your hands to heart center. Feel yourself rooted and grounded into the feet. And then reach your arms up and overhead. We'll turn the right palm up. We'll reach the left hand for the right wrist. We'll lean over to the left. And now we'll play a little bit more with balance by lifting the right foot and sending it over to the right side. So stretching from the right foot through the right fingertips. And I always love to tell students, the good news is if you fall doing a balance pose, the mat will catch you. Let's try the opposite side. We'll go over to the right. And we'll push into the right foot and lift the left foot. Good. Come back to center. Take your hands to heart center. All right, this next pose we're going to do, same foundation, feet strong on the floor, about hip distance apart, hands to heart center. So if you are at home, look around your space and see if you can find, we call it a drishti or focal point. And it's usually something that's stable, so it's not a good idea to look at the video to see if I can stay stable, because I might not be able to. But there's a spot in your room that's going to be still. And that's where you want to focus your gaze, focus your breath. And you'll push into your left foot and you'll bring your right knee directly in front of your right hip. And you'll take another breath in and another breath out. And maybe just breathe here with that sense of balance. Or maybe not. Sometimes I say, release the right foot, push into the right foot, bring the left knee up. Sometimes I say in class, balance is hilarious. Because let's face it, sometimes we've got it and sometimes we don't. When we find it, and we can hold that space, we're just practicing being in balance. And then release the left foot. Good. Take a breath in. Now's about the time that the head kicks in, like, ugh, I don't like doing balance. The thing about doing balance is it's not like you only have one option. You can always step next to a wall and do these same poses and place your hand against the wall. Or you could even come right next to the wall. Don't lean against the wall because that's not really much of a challenge. But put yourself next to the wall and then you could just bring your foot up and not feel if you started to fall backwards, you just fall backwards. You wouldn't fall forward. Your body would just take you back. So you've got options, and because you're not at a studio, you don't have to think, oh, the teacher is going to do that. I need to do it. You only need to do what feels good to your body this morning. So this next pose that we're going to do is called tree pose. And in tree pose, we bring our hands to heart center, and we place our right heel on our left ankle. The sole of the foot is down on the floor, and as we push down into the foot, we lift the heart up into the thumbs, stacking the spine, feeling the head rest comfortably at the top of the spine. And then we'll float the arms up and overhead and soften the shoulders. Breathe in and breathe out. Exhale, take your hands to your heart center. Place your right foot on the floor. Let's do the same thing with the left foot. We'll place the left heel on the right ankle. We'll hug the belly in towards the spine, lengthening from the feet, both feet. So the sole of the right foot is all four corners on the floor. The ball mount of the left foot, all four corners are on the floor, but the right heel is resting on the ankle. So we root down into that foundation. Remember, when we do yoga, whatever's on the floor is the foundation. Maybe grow some branches on your tree, soften your shoulders. And again, just notice what it feels like to be in the rhythm of your breath. Good. Exhale, release your hands to heart center. Release your left foot to the floor. we'll come into a variation of forward fold. And in forward fold, we're trying to get a nice stretch in the hamstring and the low back. So hands are going to come to the tops of the thighs. The feet are square on the floor. You don't need to turn, by the way. I'm turning so that you can see what I'm doing. You'll push into the tops of your thighs, way up by the hip bones, and lengthen from the tailbone through the top of the head. Try not to drop the head. Try not to lift the head. Keep your gaze soft. Unlock your jaw if you're locking your jaw. Hug the legs towards each other. Keep your knees soft. Push into your feet. Inhale. Float the arms straight up and overhead. Extending long, Urdhva Tadasana, or upward standing pose. And then take your hands back to your thighs. Extend long through the thighs. Push down into the feet. Reach the arms up and overhead. And we'll do that one more time, coming into that half forward fold, extending long. And then pushing into the feet, reaching the arms up and overhead. Exhale, take your hands through to heart center. Try another standing pose here. This time we'll come into variation tree pose. And we'll push into, but remember, I'm offering you variations because you've got options. So if the first option was to put the foot on the ankle and you felt like that was a challenge to you, that's your first option. This is the second option. The second option, you'll place your right heel on your left ankle. You'll reach the arms up and overhead and soften the shoulders. Then I'd like you to think about the shape of your arch and the shape of your calf, and gently slide the foot up the leg and place the foot so it rests in the calf. And the secret to this pose is that you want your foot to push equally against your leg and your leg to push equally back into your foot. Let's just breathe in and breathe out. Exhale, release your hands back to heart center. Release the right foot to the floor. Place your left heel on your right ankle. Slide the right foot up the leg and reach your arms up and overhead. Now, if you've been practicing for a while, you may be comfortable placing your foot up towards the groin, but I will ask you to please not stop at your knee, because knees are not friendly when it comes to getting pressure in the wrong direction. And then exhale. Release your hands to heart center, release your foot, and we'll come into another forward fold. This time we'll inhale the spine long, bring the head forward halfway, and then slide the hands down to the outside of the calves. And push into the calves, you start to feel your sitting bones maybe separate a little bit. From there, extend long, engage the strength of the core. So we're going a little bit deeper, but we're trying not to pull on the hamstrings or the low back. Push down into both feet, reach your arms up and overhead. Exhale, we'll do that again. We'll come into that half forward fold, extending long, and then pushing into the feet. Inhaling, rising all the way up, and we'll do that a third time. Extending long through the top of the head, pushing down into the feet. Inhale, rise up, reach the arms up and overhead. Feel yourself get nice and long. Good, and then exhale, take your hands to heart center. All right, one more standing tree pose. Vriksasana is the Sanskrit name of that pose if you're learning Sanskrit and doing yoga at the same time. Place your right heel on your left ankle again, or place your right foot into the arch. Reach your arms up and overhead. Soften your shoulders. Turn your left palm up. Reach for the right hand. Lean over to the bent leg. Remember, I was offering you options. If this doesn't feel comfortable to you, you can come back to either of the other variations. As long as we're connecting breath to movement and staying body, mind, and spirit together, that's yoga. Release the right foot. Let's do the same thing on the opposite side. The right foot anchors into the foundation. The left foot sets its own foundation, whether it's on the ankle, even if it's up into the groin area. Float the arms up, soften the shoulders away. Turn the right palm up, lean over to your left. Over that bent leg, extending long through the right side of your body. Release the left foot. Release the hands. Take a breath in. Take your hands to heart center. Close your eyes if you're comfortable closing your eyes, and just breathe in to that balance that you've been practicing this morning. Let your face soften just a little bit. Just notice how you're feeling at this point in our practice. And we'll slowly begin to open the eyes. Go ahead and step wide on your mats. So you want your feet, again, to be in the same, from the middle of the ankle to the second toe, the feet point forward. And we'll come into another variation of a forward fold. Our hands come right to our hip bones, and we'll reach the heart forward. And you start to feel as you come forward, your sitting bones separate just a little bit. And that should actually feel kind of good. And then release your fingertips, if not towards the floor. Maybe you want to find your spacers, your blocks, and place your blocks underneath your fingers. So we don't need to touch the floor when we do yoga. That's a super big misconception. We're just looking for space. Full breath in and a full breath out. Now push down into both feet. Bring your hands to your hips. Push down into your hip bones. Reach your arms up and overhead. And then exhale, take your hands out wide. Take a full breath in and a full breath out. Good. 5-pointed star is the name of this pose. And then release your hands to your hips. Keep your hips nice and heavy. Turn your left toes towards the left edge of the mat. Place a spacer, whether it's your block or maybe you had to compromise with, or improvise is really the right word. Maybe you had to improvise, use one of your home props. And then bend into the left knee. Bring that left knee so it's weight bearing over the ankle. Bring your shoulders back so they're weight bearing over your hips. Bring your head so it's resting over your hips. And then float your arms out wide. Look to your left hand and breathe in and breathe out. Warrior 2 or Virabhadrasana 2. And start to feel and notice the strength of the legs and the hips. So even though they're off balance to look at, they're balanced in the distribution of the energy and the weight. Hands to the hips. Inhale, straighten that left foot so it's parallel. And we'll turn the right toes out. Bring the right knee over the ankle. Bring the shoulders over the hips. Push into the outer edge of the left foot. Float your arms wide. Look out over the right hand. And again, find that place where you're just in the shape of the pose. You're not over-efforting, you're not overthinking. And then take your hands to your hips, straighten the right leg, turn your right foot parallel. As you exhale, come into that half forward fold with a wide stance. Rest your hands on the blocks. Maybe your fingertips want to come towards the floor. Extending long though, keeping the hamstring and the low back nice and strong. Push down into both feet. Inhale, rise up, hands to the hips. Turn your left toes out to the side. Once more, we'll bend into the left knee. Maybe you feel like you need a little more space. You want to walk that back foot back, and no matter where the feet are, you want to be sure that that back foot is either parallel to the back edge of the mat or maybe even turned in a little bit. And you want this left knee to come all the way over the ankle. So if you've stepped too wide and you can't get the foot there, then you just bring the foot back, all right? Take the left elbow, place it, or actually really the left forearm, place it on the left knee from your belly, finding balance again, rolling the right shoulder over the left so the legs are working equally same amount of effort. Push into the outer edge of the right foot. You get a lift in the right thigh. And from that right foot, float the right arm up towards the ceiling. If your shoulders aren't tight, you may want to extend the right arm over the right ear. Take a full breath in and just enjoy the space. Breathing in and breathing out. Take your right hand to your right hip. Anchor into the hips, straighten the left leg, turn the left foot parallel to the right. Let's do the same thing on the opposite side. Turn the right toes out, bend into the right knee. Make sure you've got the weight bearing of the right knee over the ankle. Your spacing is good between your feet. Place your right forearm to the right knee. Float the left arm up and over the left ear. As you push into the left foot, extend through the left fingertips. Maybe you even want to turn your left pinky towards the floor, finding even more space as you breathe into your intense side body stretch. Good. Take the left hand to the left hip. Straighten the right leg. Turn your feet parallel. This time we'll heel toe the feet back together again. And then go ahead and come into a forward fold that works for you. So it could be that half forward fold that we were doing earlier. It could be that you want to reach for your block even and place your hands on your blocks. Or some of you may even feel like coming all the way down, but just keep your knees bent. Breathe into your forward fold, just let it go. We build poses in our practice to invite us to let go, right? So if we're off balance, sometimes we're holding on to things. All right, come on up. Step wide on your mat again. This time we want to place the blocks, or whatever prop you have, about as wide as our feet. We're getting ready for triangle pose, and triangle pose is an awesome pose. It opens up the front of the body, it strengthens our shoulders, it strengthens our legs. If you are excited and want to touch the floor, that is awesome, but it's not awesome if we do it in a way that closes up our hearts, right? In finding balance, we've got to open up the front of the body. So from this wide stance, we'll turn the left toes out to the side. We'll put that softness in the left knee, float the arms out wide, and then keeping your right hip where it is, reach with the left hand, keeping the shoulders square. Float the right shoulder over the left and reach for the block. Now, sometimes one block isn't enough. So you may want to reach for that second block or second can, if that's what you're using from home, and come from here. What I'm asking you to please not do is to do this. Right? There's no opening in the front of the body. This isn't going to feel that awesome. I want you to feel awesome this morning. So if you can come wide and float on your breath and bring your right shoulder over your left, push into the outer edge of the right foot, push into the ball mount of the left foot. The block is there, but it's not really holding you. You could also gently place your fingertips on the left shin. But again, the block is nice. It's a nice spacer. And make sure you're breathing and extending long. And then take your right hand to your hip. Inhale, rise up. Turn your right toes to the back or to the opposite side of your mat. Take another breath. Take your arms out wide. Keep the right knee soft. And make your way opening up into a triangle, placing the fingertips in a space that you can keep your heart open. Don't forget to breathe in. And while you're at it, don't forget to breathe out. Good. Take your left hand to your left hip. Push down into your feet. Inhale, come all the way up. Heel to your feet back together again. Good. Like a square dance. Float the arms up and overhead. Keep the knees soft. Place your hands at heart center. Take a full breath in and a full breath out. All right, let's step the feet wide again. And we'll do that sequence, we'll just kind of take it in a slightly different order. Turn your left toes out to the side, bend into your left knee, bringing the left knee all the way over the ankle, tracking the knee more towards the back edge of the mat. Push into the outer edge of the right foot. Reach your arms out wide. Warrior two, look out over the left hand. Feel your breath nice and steady. Now place your left elbow on the left thigh. Float your right arm up and overhead. Extend long through the right fingertips from the outside edge of the right foot. Just breathe in, notice how good you feel. Good, now let's reach the right arm up towards the ceiling. Reach the left fingertips towards your block or maybe towards your prop. And then float the left leg straight. Reach up into your triangle, lift your toes off the floor. Push into the ball mount of the left foot. Find the balance in your triangle. Remember, a triangle is the strongest geometric shape that we have. Breathing in and breathing out. And take your right hand to your right hip. Inhale, rise up, turn your toes parallel to one another, and we'll do the same thing on the opposite side. So turn your right toes out. Take a breath here. Make your way into Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2. Look out over the right hand. Melt the shoulders towards the hips. Push into the outer edge of the left foot. Keep your gaze soft. And release your right forearm to your right knee. Float the left arm over the left ear. Reach from the left foot through the left fingertips. Feel yourself breathing into the space and the shape of your intense side body stretch. Finding stillness, finding balance. Float the left arm up to the ceiling. Reach your right hand for the block behind your right leg. Straighten into the right leg without locking it. Breathe and notice where you're feeling the stretch, opening up the front of the heart. If I were with you in the classroom, I would push my hand into that top hand for you so you could feel your shoulders hugging onto your back. We'll do that from a video version, right? Push into that top hand, open up the front of the heart. Breathe in and breathe out. Good, and then take your left hand to your left hip. Inhale and rise all the way up. Turn your feet parallel to one another. Take a breath here. On the exhale, come into a version of forward fold that feels comfortable to you. Maybe you'd like to bring your hands all the way down to the floor and just reach the hands to the floor and then walk the hands all the way out in front of you and let your head rest in between your arms. Snuggle the shoulders onto your back. You can use your block and place your hands up on the blocks. Let's just breathe here and notice. Maybe walk your hands underneath your shoulders again. Feel that space. Maybe walk your hands behind you, stretching through the shoulders, feeling that stretch in the hamstrings. And then slide your fingers under your shoulders, heel-toe your feet back together again. And then come into stand at the top of your mat once more. Good. I hope you guys are doing well. We've done the standing parts of our balancing poses. Let's come down onto our backs. We'll just start off by hugging the knees into the chest. So you want to lay on your back, take your knees down towards your armpits, and just rock a little bit from side to side. And then release your feet down to the floor. Take your hands to the tops of your thighs once more, and then push your shoulders to the floor. Feel the natural curve of your low back here. We're just breathing into the space as we melt the shoulders down, and feel the hips heavy on the floor. And then release the hands once more. Hug your knees into your chest. Rock a little bit from side to side. The knees are coming out wide. And you may remember at the beginning of the practice, this is pretty much the same shape as a child's pose. And we do child's pose as a resting pose in our yoga practice. We're just letting go a little bit of the energy that we've built from standing. And then place your feet back on the floor. Put your left ankle on top of your right knee and push your left knee away. Push your right thigh away. Melt your shoulders again. Flex your toes back towards your knees. And breathe and notice. 3 rounds of breath here. And we'll do the same thing on the opposite side. Release the left foot, place the right heel on, or the right ankle on the left knee. Push the right thigh away, push the left thigh away. Melt your shoulders to the floor. Flex your toes back towards your knees. And then go ahead and roll over onto your bellies. And once you come onto your bellies, bring your elbows right underneath your shoulders. Look, I'm so tall, my feet are off the edge of the mat. I'm going to scoot forward a little bit. All right, so we've got our feet flat on the floor. We've got our elbows underneath the shoulders. We'll isometrically drag the hands back as we pull the chest forward in between the arms. And we'll breathe into the space of this Sphinx pose. Taking a nice steady breath in and balancing it with the exhale. Feeling your belly lift off the mat to support the length in the low back. And looking down the length of the nose so that we're not overextending through the neck. Breathing in and breathing out. Gently take your left knee and move it out to the side, opening up the hip a little bit. Coming back into that space and that shape. Trying to balance the weight of the hips on the floor. And then we'll come back and we'll do the same thing on the opposite side. We'll take the right knee out to the side. We'll square the shoulders and the hips. We'll drag the hands back isometrically. And just notice where we are this morning. Again, can you find balance in the breath even when the body is physically not balanced? Bring that right leg back. Come back onto your backs. We'll do another little bit of a hip opener here. We're coming into a fallen tree, which is just the pose that we've done a lot of work with this morning. You'll come all the way down onto your backs. If you are not a fan of laying flat on your back, you can put a little something under your head, but don't lift it way high. Don't use something like a block. Use a blanket just a little bit, all right? So once you come down onto your back, your feet are out in front of you, and you'll reach your arms up and overhead, and scoot out anything that's in your way. Take a breath in and just breathe into that reclining pose. Toes are going to point up towards the ceiling, so your legs are now energetically involved. And then you don't have to worry about falling over, right? Balance is hilarious. You don't need to worry about that anymore. Take your right knee and reach it out to the side. Keep your hips and shoulders square. Your right foot can rest anywhere along the left leg because you're not putting any pressure on the knee. And breathe in and exhale to let it go. Do that again. And let it go. Do it a third time. And exhale to let it go. Straighten through your right leg. Do the same thing on the other side. Let the left knee come out to the side. If your left knee feels like there's just too much pull, you can always grab a block and put the block underneath the knee or your blanket. So we want to find space, but we don't want to find it by forcing it. Just like we want to find balance, but we can't force balance, right? We have to practice it and hope we get better at it. These poses, there's never been a yoga performance. It's all about practicing. And we'll straighten through the left leg. And then bend the knees, and once more, hug your knees into your chest. I like to call this the poor man's massage. So we're just going to rock from side to side. And if I bring my knees way close to my chest, I feel it in a certain part of my back. If I push my knees against my hand, I feel it more in my shoulders and my sacrum. So if we're doing this at home, or if we're doing this at the studio, I would always invite you to do what feels good to you. And then once more, we'll place our feet on the floor. We'll push the thighs away. We'll melt the shoulders towards the floor. And then we'll release the hands. So now, I'd like you to settle into a sweet shavasana, or the yoga nap that comes at the end of all of our yoga practices. If you came in to your space and you had a sweatshirt or you had a pair of socks on, you've got your blanket or something snugly, now's the time to come into full-on shavasana. So shavasana is the nap. It's also called corpse pose. And it's full on laying flat on your back. And once you come down onto your back, you're dressed up in something warm. You've got your blanket. Maybe you want to put the blanket over you. Again, if you like a little something under your head, try and keep it as a little something. You don't want to strain the neck. We want the spine to stay nice and long. We've done all that balancing of the spine today. So, settle down onto your backs. Rest your hands next to your hip bones and turn your palms to face upward. Turn your feet to turn out to the side so they fall away from each other. The feet are a little wider than hip distance here in our shavasana. And take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, release the breath. This morning, I'd like to share with you from one of my sweet books by Dana Falls. When I first started teaching, she had lots of poetry that related to yoga, and she's done a great job for the yoga community. So Namaste, she's a particular favorite. So we're reading from her book this morning, From Root to Bloom, and this is called Circle of Breath. Inhale and let go. Over and over, the circle of breath brings me into this moment. The even flow of air, the act of taking in and giving back, breathing draws me inside the radiant reality of now. I can't breathe deeply and be fearful, breathe freely and be anywhere but here. The whole of me embodied in these waves of breath. As you rest in your shavasana, notice the waves of your breath, the rise and fall, the rhythm. Feel yourself melt into the mat. We'll stay here long enough for the body to reset. And don't be afraid of falling asleep. Just let yourself be here in this moment, in this breath. enjoying your practice, enjoying the letting go, recognizing how much strength it took you to come to your mat. Begin to welcome awareness back to your body, filling the lungs with breath all the way down through the length of the spine. And then exhaling the breath out completely. Begin to gently wiggle your fingers and your toes. And just feel how you're held. Whenever you're ready, bend into your knees and roll and rest on your right side. And 3 full rounds of breath, resting on your right side. Feeling the goodness of the breath as it moves through the back of your body. And then whenever you're ready, use your hands and make your way back up into a seated pose, keeping your eyes closed or just gently looking down. Resting on your blanket or the ground or whatever prop gives you that sense of sitting in a way that's balanced. And for now, we'll bring our hands to heart center. The word namaste means, I honor the light in you from the light within me. So together, let's bow our heads to our hearts. Namaste. Thank you so much for sharing your practice with me this morning. Truly, it is my honor to sit in the seat of teaching.